Hello. Today's episode number 93 of the Professor Slots podcast discusses casino assessments highlighting the casino reopenings. Plus, in this episode, I'll be covering the current state of slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. state of North Carolina. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedel, and this is the podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. In case you missed it, on my last episode, I went over casino reopenings in Oklahoma, Washington, and Wisconsin from my weekly live Q&A session on YouTube. Further, I reviewed New York slot machine casino gambling in 2020. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Here's the audio recording of my latest live Q&A session. Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? It's great to hang out with you again for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. Today, we'll be diving into how to perform a casino assessment on casinos which have reopened. As casinos reopen near you, do you need help figuring out which one you should place slots at? Shouldn't you go to the best available? But how do you figure that out? How do you figure out which casino is best for you? So in today's live stream, I'll explain how to perform a casino assessment, highlighting casino openings. That's coming up. So, but first, if you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello. I see people are saying hello. Thank you, Chuck, for confirming the audio is good. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself, and I'll think I have a great show, but then nobody else will have heard it. That's happened, and I've restarted. But first, if you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello in the live chat and let us know where you are at or where you play slots. I'll check in with the live stream in a few moments. And as usual, answer your slots-related questions. For those of you who haven't been with us before, I usually try to spend, it kind of comes and goes depending on the urgency of the topic, but usually spend about half of our hour together answering questions, hopefully on or around the topic that I covered in the first half hour or so. So I'll answer those before the end of the show. Now, apologies go out to what is this handle? I know his real name, Chip Barron. I apologize for not answering your detailed paragraph question, the first comment from the last show, because I was saying hello and I promised to come back and I didn't, and I owe him, because unfortunately it was the second time I'd done it. So, somebody remind me next time or something. Apparently I've got a problem with that. So I haven't seen him on yet, but I haven't looked for him yet. In any case, thanks again for joining us today, whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream. Quite a few people watched the video later. Last weekend, we didn't have a lot of people here live, but it was Memorial Day weekend. So we get over 1,000, nearly 2,000 at this point, watching it later. And if I look at my statistics at the moment, we've got 13 people in the live stream, and I'm happy to see them, or rather see their chat. They can see me, I can't see them. So, hi. My name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on with slots, I can help. As of about an hour ago, 227 U.S. casinos have reopened, and 762 remain closed. Many casinos have started to open in the last week, with quite a few more planning to open in June. And June starts tomorrow. Wow, where did May go? I shouldn't say that. May felt like it was 100 years long. I'm sure you agree. During our last show a week ago, 162 casino properties had reopened, while 827 closed, with another 62 casinos opening in the last week. We're up to about 6.5% of all U.S. casinos being reopened. Where am I getting this current information? Well, the American Gaming Association has created a live casino tracker on their website. To get to it, there's either their rather long URL or the convenient one I've created. So I will drop this into the live chat and I'll say it out loud, and it'll be in the description and it'll be in the show notes for the podcast. It is professorslots.com/tracker. All right. Got to keep an eye on things in the live chat. Sometimes YouTube drops in messages all the time for me, and I need to make sure they're okay. Something that might be of interest to anybody else who does YouTube, I've switched everything on the YouTube channel. It used to be a personal channel, and now it is a branded channel. So that means I can have employees. And hopefully, the only thing that happened was all my comments were deleted, not anybody else's, just my responses. There weren't too many of those because there haven't been too many comments up to now, but just minor things. I keep on working on the business. I mentioned 2-3 weeks ago that you're going to start seeing more and more changes. And I've got actually another one for you coming up in a minute. So, as I also mentioned on my last live stream, perhaps you're wondering what it's like at a reopened or about to be reopened casino. Now, all this relates to our topic for today. So, it's a system of where do you get information? Where do you get that information, this information, and then how do you make your decisions, and are your decisions right for you? So I'm going to talk about a few things that all accumulate into being able to talk about our today's topic, which is casino reassessments. So perhaps you're wondering what it's like at these reopened casinos, or what it will be like once other casinos reopen. How do you get that information? For reopening plans for casinos in your area, as well as, frankly, interactive casino trip reports, which I don't think I'd ever heard of before. It turns out I'm doing that, or rather I'm helping make that happen. You can go to your local, you can get casino trip reports from your local slots enthusiasts, okay? Some of whom you may know. You may have seen them before at your casino because they go to your casino. So be sure to join one of my private slots communities on Facebook. I've got one for every state, as well as one more for every state, called Professor Slots. There's got to be a better way to say that. I would call it Professor Slots Enthusiasts. To find these slots communities, visit professorslots.com/Facebook. Excuse me. professorslots.com/FB, and click on the appropriate link to be taken directly to that state's Facebook group, or our overall one, Professor Slots Enthusiasts. So I will drop that link to the usual 3 places, one of which is the live chat, and then jump back. And also I'll put that in the description for this video, as well as in the podcast show notes, as usual. And at some point I might never say that, but this is where you can find that. If you don't, just remember professorslots.com/FB. It'll be alphabetical, and you just choose yours, and it goes straight to your Facebook group. And all you need is a profile on Facebook in order to be able to join, and I'll approve the request most likely. So one last piece of business, something that you guys have been talking about here in the live chat, because this is where I get a lot of feedback, as well as the slots communities. And you had requested that I create Professor Slots apparel and other merchandise like a coffee mug. So while I haven't launched this, you guys have been so helpful that I thought I'd tell you first. Well, the first announcement, I mentioned this to a few other people, and I've ordered some myself. They haven't arrived yet. It'll be another 11 days before they arrive, and I'll show you them. It might be what I wear from now on here. So what's going on here is that there is a website that YouTubers can use, which there's only one, which is in cooperation with YouTube. So you can, it's integrated, but I can't use it yet because I don't have enough subscribers. Like and subscribe to this video. And so we can build that number because I'd like to be able to just put it where you can find it more easily, particularly on YouTube. But it is set up. Once I have enough subscribers, I'll do the usual thing. But right now I've just set up so that all I have to do is just, get approved by YouTube. So I've set it up and I plan to do a formal launch later with my whole audience on all the platforms. But you've been so great, all of you, on the live, on the watching this later, and on a podcast. You've been so great. So I wanted to offer it to you first. Why? Because it was your help that helped me choose what to call you. Okay. With your help, I've decided, out of all the things that you've offered and suggested, I've decided to call you Slots Enthusiasts. You might have noticed, if you're a member of one of the one or more of the Facebook groups, that everything was changed from the old name to now the name of the state, followed by Slots Enthusiasts, Alabama Slots Enthusiasts, Oklahoma Slots Enthusiasts. And so I changed the name on all 56 state by state, including territories and the federal district. So it's 56, and then one more for Professor Slots Enthusiasts. So I decided to go with that after all the back and forth that we'd had. Now, the other names you've suggested were very helpful. Please, they were very helpful. Thank you. And it's likely I'll be using several of them for various projects as we go. It's nice to have a collection of quite nice sayings. Titles, names, maybe one of those would be the name of the online course later. Maybe I'll write a book with that as the title. There's several possibilities, and now I have plenty of good ones to choose with. So thank you very much for your help. But for now, everything I have available has I'm a Slots Enthusiast on it. The shortcut to its website is professorslots.com/swag. That's SWAG. And again, it's a shortcut. The company, and I'll put this into the live chat, and you'll find it later if you're watching this later in the description for the video, and as well as in the podcast show notes. So that's the website, or rather, that's the link to the website. I haven't put it on my website. It's a website for a place called Teespring, the company that YouTubers coordinate with YouTube to use. The clothing, and it's not just clothing, the clothing has, I'm a Slots Enthusiast on the front, in a small square here, and then across the back as well. And the front small font backs, of course, big and across the back, 2 lines, I'm a Slots, and then across the bottom, Enthusiast with an exclamation point. That's on the back because, as we know, when you're sitting at a slot machine, generally your back is towards everybody, and I thought you'd like that. So that's so people can see when you're sitting at a slot machine. I have some of my own items on order, as I had mentioned, and you'll see them once they arrive. So let's go and check into the live chat. It's been, 13 minutes of talking. My goodness. So Texas Tootsie is here. Her name is Jan, she says. We email regularly, including today, twice, 3 times. So she usually plays in Louisiana, but she's in Texas. Paula is here. She's in Flint, Michigan. She says she's looking forward to today's topic, and as does Jan. And Baldwin, Missouri is where Chuck is from. And he says local casinos will open Monday. Yeah, a lot of stuff's coming. I thought this was to be a timely topic to have. Before, you might have, a week ago, 3 weeks ago, you might have had one casino you might know of. But now you got choices, maybe. Hopefully, we'll see. Okay. Chip says, hi, Professor John. He's always coming up with these new things. What is it? John's Jovial Jackpotters or something? JJJ. You have your cinnamon tea and blueberry bagel, his notepad and Taza chocolate. And he's he says a big hi to John's Kitty Wonderland. I should do a roll call at some point. I'm being ignored at the moment. I'm going to count my blessings on that one. We'd know what's happened in the past. Denise is here. She's from Texas. But this mourning her losses in Oklahoma, and a couple of crying faces. Oh my goodness. Lois and Dave are here. They're in Ontario, family friends. Steve is here. He's in Wisconsin. Hello, Steve. There's and the reason why I thought it would be timely to talk about this, and I don't want to take too much time here because it's let's get to the topic. But I've been hearing about some losses on Facebook and what to do about it, shall we say? And so that's why I thought this might be something to do. Okay, thanks, Lois and Dave, for the feedback. Joe is here. He's in California. And Brian, hello, Brian. Dean, peace, good to see you. Steve, new shirts. Steve bought some of my older Professor Slots shirts that were just more branded a while ago. And now I have more. ProfessorSlots.com/swag. Check it out, Steve. Right, so there's my links I set out earlier. Steve says play mostly at Anita, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Island Casino in Upper Michigan. Yep. We talked about that a little bit last. Talked about those casinos, or at least Island Casino, Upper Michigan, how it's very approachable to people in Upper Wisconsin, but not so much Upper Michigan because it's Upper Peninsula stuff. David is here. He's in Oklahoma. Well, Dave, very few people actually watch it live. Far more, 100 times as many people watch it later. I'm sorry about this being a bad time. I have to think if there's something I can do to switch it up. It's very important to be on a regular schedule. But it's good to see you now. Scott says, it's been a rough time. Okay, Paula stepped away and we didn't know. And now she's back. Hi, Paula. And Catherine's here. Catherine from Oregon is here. Okay, so I'm caught up on the live stream, on the live chat in the live stream. And let's come back to it. Where are we at? Okay. Right. That was great. Today's topic is based on one of my 3 big articles on my website. I haven't written it for the pandemic. I wrote it well before. This is one of 3 big, every slots enthusiast must know topics. And it's called Assessing Casinos for Success. The first one, that's what we're going to cover. The second one, which we kind of covered once, again, I don't actually read these word for word or anything like that, but I review them and talk about stuff that I didn't end up putting in it or things that happened later that sort of apply. So the second one is choosing slot machines, including using pay tables to determine my goodness ratio. And if you've been on the show before, you've heard about that. And as well as the third article, identifying your gambling goals, because how can you know if you've met your goals unless you know what your goals are, right? And so that's why it's my 3 primary. So to find these 3 primary posts for slots enthusiasts, you'll find links to them on the front page of my website between the title, Learning to Win at Slot Machines, and a short video where I introduce myself, where I'm sitting in this chair, in this office, but I'm wearing a bow tie and a corduroy jacket, so I look more like a professor. And between those two things, that title, that big white title, and that video are some links. Now, if you're using a mobile device, it's actually a little menu. So you can watch for that. And it's just a little, there's lots of different ways you can look at this stuff. But between Learning to Win and the video are 4 or 5 articles, and they're just links to them. So the first one is Start Here. And the last 2 are personal coaching, and the very last one is posting schedule. But between Start Here and personal coaching, which I call bonus round, sandwiched between those 2 are these 3 articles. And the first one is the one I'll be reviewing, Assessing Casinos for Success, and that I'll be covering today, as well as covering why you need to do this now. It's a generally useful tool, task, and frankly, a necessary assessment should be, assessments are so important. They should be done at least once a year by every slots enthusiast. But besides annually, it's needed after a casino has, and I talk about this in the article, has changed ownership, had any significant renovation or construction done, and more. In fact, it's hard to say exactly how many things. What's significant, what isn't. Tear down half the building, move the track down the road because it's also a racetrack. What you have to decide when you need to do it, but you need to do it at least annually. If you notice a big change, as I think anybody who's been on a prior show knows, and we have new people all the time, so I want to repeat this. My winning techniques aren't to make you more lucky, okay? That's between you and the universe. Sorry. But, it isn't entirely luck. It's always luck a little bit, but, lightning can strike. But there are, regular winning it means advantage plays. And the advantage plays aren't, you need to notice them. You need to implement a counter response to what? To the universe? No, to the to the casino operator. The operator has tools and measures. It's the new technology, central servers, and adjustments to odds on machines that are near the end of the row, near the bar. We've talked about a lot of these, and they're all based on what is the casino operator doing, combined with some luck. So we can't do much about the luck, but we can do some other things. And all the casinos closed for, 2.5 months? So did they renovate? Did they do some construction? That would drive a reassessment. And what about the next, just the closing and the national crisis? A couple of days ago, I began to realize that this is one of those things. It wasn't something I had considered, when I wrote the article. But once I realized, we need to go way back to one of my first articles. I tried to start with the most important things and take a look at that. So when I think about how to best help slots enthusiasts through this unique time, I realized that a national crisis where all casinos suddenly closed and after over 2 months are now slowly reopening. It's not just that casinos might have taken those 2 months to make some serious renovations on their properties, but that all casinos have made changes. All casinos have made changes to accommodate safety precautions. And some of those may be, every other slot machine turned off. That's got to be significant. That right there, that'll drive a reassessment. What's the consequences of that? So let's get to it. A direct link to the article, although you can find it fairly easily on my website, right there on the first page, professorslots.com. But I'm going to drop this into the chat, and I'm also going to, of course, put it into the podcast show notes and the video notes. So, The article itself, I sort of alluded to this earlier, the article itself doesn't reference the pandemic, nor was it written since the pandemic, wasn't written this year. It doesn't even mention what to do in case of a national crisis, how innocent we once were. It was written as one of the first must-know primary topics for slots enthusiasts. After the introduction, you don't have to go necessarily to the website. A lot of people don't like to come out, get off of the media platform that they're on. So if you want to stay on YouTube, you can search for Assessing Casinos for Success, and you'll find the video, which I made of it, because again, it's one of the more important topics. Not that they're all not pretty important. Maybe some of the history stuff is not so important according to some of the analytics. But this is, a must see, I would hope. If you think about winning, if you think about slot machines, if you think about what you're trying to do, you think about which casino near you is the best. And so Assessing Casinos for Success is the title, and you can search for it on YouTube and find it. Now, we have plenty of people listening on the podcast, and if you want to listen to it there on the same platform, it is episode number 3. So I think our next episode is 93, so 90 episodes ago. And number 3, that is where I go through that article. So that's how you find all of this. I see some stuff going on in the live chat, so let me quickly jump over there, see if anything's going on. Catherine, me, Scott. Yes. So Scott makes a point about watching a few of the Facebook groups. I don't think the machines are a bit more loose than they were. I'm not decided what they may be actually tighter. People don't care. They just want to go. That's exactly the point. And we'll come to that in just a moment. That's exactly the point why I felt it was necessary to go over casino assessments, because plenty of people would be happy to just be in front of a slot machine. Plenty of people would be happy to post on Facebook, good job, we're done, and then there's others like yourself who would be like, no, I'd like to maybe win money, and more than I, go home with more than I came in with. But that's you and me and the other people on the show. So, everybody has, and I'll get to this point, everybody has different, they would assess a casino a different way. So let's keep going with this, because I think I'm maybe helping. Which I would like to do. So that's what I was going to just say. The assessments are individualized. You are doing this assessment. What you want from a casino isn't necessarily what someone else wants. That's why you, or someone who knows you very well indeed, need to do the assessment. We've seen some of this misunderstanding in the slots communities, where members report what was important to them, but other members reading the casino report later, and I was thinking about you, Scott, when I wrote this, when I made my notes for this show, other casinos reading the casino report later often have questions like, didn't you go into the high limit room? Why didn't you leave the high limit room? Why ever not? Either way, back and forth. Did you go home with money? Some people report on their casino reports. Everybody talks about what they want to talk about their trip. But there's been a few that have been, this is what the safety precautions were like. This is, I went home with money. This is what I won to be able to go home with money. I was in the high limit room, or I was not in the high limit room, and it was thorough. While plenty of people might just talk about one of those topics. Now, I'm not being critical here. I'm just saying this is what we're getting, and maybe it'll match what you are hoping for. Maybe it won't match. So you get what you get. So all I can ask is, if you go to a casino and you want to let us know, try to cover a couple of topics. I think being on the show, I think it helps. But one of the things I struggle with this business is, you know, if you walk into a casino, look around and wonder what's going on, I can help. If you walk into a casino, don't look around and don't wonder what's going on, I can't help. And we get both. And no judgments, but I'm trying to help people understand what's going on. So we have a casino assessment. You probably haven't done one. Who does casino assessments? It's just a fine idea. It's just a great idea, but who does it? So let's go on. I don't mean to be sarcastic. I'm trying not to be. It's important, I think, to assess a casino if you want to determine whether or not you should even be there. Some people don't have that luxury. Some people have one casino and the next one's 500 miles away. Right? And not just because none near me have reopened yet. There's one in June that looks like it'll reopen about near my family. It's about 500 miles away. But some people live in eastern Idaho and there's one tribal casino there. Otherwise they got to drive 5 hours or maybe fly. And so they want to go, they go. I have an article, professorslots.com/ABC27. I've shared this before, so I won't put it in anywhere, where it's an evening news, ABC evening news report, where they interviewed me and they analyzed the Pennsylvania state gaming returns for Penn National to see, to note that payouts are pretty high right that first year because there wasn't any other, I said, well, there's no other casinos nearby. They had to teach people how to, they would want to go to the casino. Once they got them hooked in, they dropped because why would they drop? Well, there's no other casino and so you're sort of locked in. And this is just casino operator behavior and you should expect it. In fact, you should take advantage of it. And that's in a little synopsis. That's what we're talking about here. Let's think about these things and then see if there's any way to take advantage of what the casino operators are doing, because they don't really expect slots players to do that. All right, lecture done. 2-minute rant done. So one of the tools, I haven't gone over the article at high level yet, but I wanted to jump right to it. There is a checklist. It's a tool I provided. I was trying to do that more often than not in the early days. I need to get back to doing that sort of thing. It's 25 questions. It's a 1-page PDF. It's available most of the way to the bottom. It's a big form where you put in your email address, and it has to actually be your email address. It can't be not an email address. And you'll get, it'll be 25 questions to ask when you're assessing a casino, and it's built into a 1-page PDF. It's like a checklist. And you can put it on your phone, but you need to have a way to write some notes and check some boxes and score specific things. And we'll go over that in just a moment. But that's what you do when you perform the physical assessment. But before you even choose to arrive to go to one of your available casinos, you have to do research online as best you can. Normally that would be checking state gaming regulations, seeing if it's one of the 5 states that have payout returns, if there's any legal limits, maybe some reviews on people attending the hotel and bed bugs or whatever. You review it from a distance to decide whether it's a candidate casino. And then if you're actually going to go, I recommend not gambling on your first trip. I recommend that you walk through the casino and continue the assessment that you started online with a physical walkthrough, and take the checklist and check it off. And because if it's the only one available and you definitely want to go to a casino, then it's just a matter of whether you will or will not go to that one casino. But if there's one down the road, one of them might have what you want more. And that makes it your favorite, right? We talk, and if you're on the slot communities, we talk about, hey, I ask everybody who joins, what's your favorite casino? And often it's convenient, and sometimes they say it's the only one anywhere near me. But sometimes they list a bunch of them because they're near a bunch of them. And is there some systematic way to determine which one's best? Yeah, And this is the article that you need to read, and we'll talk more about it here. Let's see. Got to keep an eye on chat. Right. So I hope that you begin to see how these assessments and the slots communities allow you some insight, but maybe not enough insight to decide what's going on at casinos. I'm talking over with some of the people I email with and we have side conversation with in the last week, began to realize that, Scott, you kicked it off with that discussion. I think it was in the Oklahoma group, right? About how accurate is this information we're getting from the other players? Well, it's as accurate as it is. But to do something a little more formal, it can't be done by somebody else, because what do you want? And so I'm seeing some activity Ferguson, hello from Fresno, California, he says. Hello. Scott says it's almost, many of the posts are look at me. Scott, have you met humans? At least it's not Twitter. Okay. Sorry. Social media is social media, right? So Maxie Powers is here from sunny Southern California, and went last night to Morongo Casino. And Lois and Dave said, I'm sure casinos are assessing what customers will be expecting also. Absolutely. Although that's actually, there's a subtlety there. Lois and Dave said, I'm sure casinos are assessing what customers will be expecting also. Sometimes there's such a misread, there's like no future thought. Let's tighten everything up so that we can, get money back from having been closed for 2.5 months. Was that a shallow thought or a deep thought? The people who are coming back after a casino's been closed for 2.5 months might be your diehards who would never stop going to your casino. So maybe you could do that to them, or maybe you just didn't think about it and were greedy. It's really hard to tell. Is it like a really wise person or is it a fool? Hard to tell sometimes. So yeah, they could be, but when it's not a pandemic, I'm not sure it is so much the casinos that do the assessments. I think it's the slot manufacturers. I mean, if you read their annual financial reports, where they're supposed to be honest and clear and not use big words, too many big words, they talk about player appeal, and they're very interested in that. They get some feedback from the casinos. They contribute some data, anonymous data. It's definitely anonymous data. They don't have player card information attached to it. But how much did that machine get played? How long did it stay at the front entrance of the casino, or how long was it just removed because it wasn't popular? Slot machine manufacturers are trying all the time to make slot machines that people will play. So I see a lot more of assessing going on that end. But if you're just talking about the pandemic, then sure. Hey, Larry made it. Hey, Larry. I'm well. I hope you are well. Thanks for asking. Right. Larry says, glad to see casinos reopening. Problem is in the UK. Larry's in the UK. Yeah, we're global. At least some people haven't signed into YouTube. I have to speak to everybody who's familiar with YouTube and not so familiar with YouTube. You can you put things into the chat if you log in. Otherwise, all you can do is just watch. So there may be some people that haven't chatted for whatever reason, and maybe from other places, but we've got a representation from East Coast to West Coast here and South to North, and might have, in fact, Lois and Dave are representing South and North, and also outside of the United States, which is great. So, Larry says, glad to see casinos reopening. Problem is UK quarantining. So like most of the world, we can't leave our country. Yeah. While I have the usual restrictions of everybody in the United States, I also have a job where, I have a job where there are some restrictions, and particularly lately, and I'm also in Ohio, which has some, early and often sort of response. So I don't expect casinos here to reopen. I'm starting to feel it. I'm open for Michigan soon, maybe sometime in June. That would be awesome. Right. So Denise in Texas traveled to Oklahoma this week to 4 casinos: Thunderbird, Apache, WinStar, and Border. Lost at each. All picks and wins I saw at all were high-limit machines only. Brian says Mountain Tier opens up Friday. Thinking of going. If you do, please report back. Mountaineer is very popular with a lot of people on those appropriate slots communities. It'd be nice to hear how it goes. Scott says the casinos are laughing at all of us. Let's don't loosen them up. Let's tighten them, give them a $15 more free play and make up for what we missed out on. I'm not trying to read that cynically. Sure, why not, right? Free market. But they make mistakes. I mean, in some ways they do that all the time, but they make mistakes sometimes. Like, for instance, they do that now. We've seen this behavior before, and not in a pandemic. It was earlier in this year in Oklahoma. I think you remember back then, right? The problem with the gaming compacts it was unclear whether or not they needed to be renewed. These decade-long compacts, and the tribes got into arguments with the governor. And so, with being 45% Class 2 machines, and this is a Oklahoma-specific topic, and 55% being Class 3, which most slot machines are, that when we talk about slot machines, Oklahoma and the Class 3 apply to gaming compacts, but the Class 2 do not. And so, there was this big fight with the governor, and one of the things that happened was all the tribal casinos tightened up. And wow, did they have a problem. All right. And whenever there's something that's being done by a casino operator, I am the one who tries to figure out what is our response. Right. And this is the same situation that you described. If that is happening, and again, we have to decide whether or not it is happening. We have Denise's report. We see some of this in Jan's, and we see some of this on the slots channels, slots communities. But we sort of have to make our own decision how, if one person says it is true, if 2 people say it, is it true? And so you have to decide. And it looks pretty reasonable, by the way. But if that's happening, what's the response? When that's happened before, what has been the response? The casinos, the tribal casinos, once the fight with the governor was kind of like, I won't say over, but kind of done for now, they loosened right up. Okay. You see the plan, right? Don't go to the casino. That actually puts pressure on the casino, because if they're trying to make money and you don't go, they realize their mistake. All right. Enough ranting again. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Scott said it very clearly in, 2 sentences. I have to tell you, Steve, I'm not sure why, but your comments all need to be approved. What exactly have you been doing? I've never had to approve your comments before. They look innocent enough to me. Just letting you know, I'll keep on approving them. Scott, haven't been yet. Not too in a hurry. Seems like just not right now. Yeah, perfect response. Yes. Steve's talking about the slots communities. You have to decide what they mean to you. If they've won, I don't think any of them are fake or anything like that. I don't think they got the wrong casino. I don't think any of that. I think they won something. We don't have information to, if you make assumptions about, they went home with money when they never said that, just think about what they said, and it's interactive. Ask, hey, did you go home with money? What is it that's your interest versus what is it that's their interest? And it's interactive. Join and ask. Please be nice. Otherwise, bad things happen. And so ask. Okay, so Steve says, I played at my local casino opening day, made over I'm going to assume you meant $1,500, not $1.50. A little better than an hour of play, and went home only 1/2 hour drive with a $500 bankroll. It was early morning. And Mr. Bill 6666 says, when your favorite casino reopens, will you start with your usual preferences or will you try something new? I want to hit the slots that usually pay out top jackpots more often. And apparently you've been to that casino and you know which ones, based on your own experience, pay out more often and you want to check. Right. I'm not saying, I'm on the casino assessments. I'm not saying throw out everything that you knew before. I'm saying check. Okay. I've walked into a casino I've never been to before and did a casino assessment. But I also, before I walked in, I did research. Now, if I haven't been to the casino before, then I do online research. But if I have been to the casino before, I think about what I know about that casino from my own experience and having been there before. And then I go into the casino and I say, okay, has anything changed? If so, what? If so, how? So that you can decide if that major reconstruction, that national crisis, has changed things that you kind of took for granted. Because casino operators rarely, make a change. I would say almost never make a change. Because if you shut down half the casino to clean the carpet or something, which isn't a big change, they're not making money. Right? They buy better carpet. At least I hope so. That lasts longer between cleanings. I don't know if that's the best example in the world, but they want to keep things going. And if they need to do a major reconstruction, it's because there was a good reason for it. Okay. And there's only a couple of good reasons. Like switching over to a central server so they have better control on their financial performance metrics. Money's just waiting for that. They're going to get money from that. They just have to bite the bullet and close down for 3 months. If they can't, if they don't have the land to build another casino right next to it while the old ones are running, just take half the parking lot for construction equipment. It's all decisions. So Linda is here. She says, good morning. I've gone to 3 different casinos in Southern California. I think last week we were looking at it, and I'm not sure there was more than 3 casinos. One was generous, left with a profit. The other 2 were horrible, hard to even get a bonus on slots. Also, I noticed the payouts were odd amounts. This is another comment. Example, on 75-cent bet, I got 3 like symbols and won 17 cents, odd amount. This was at the 2 casinos that were extremely tight. I believe the lower the payout amounts. Thank you very much. And this is the type of information where it's solid information, right? I mean, some people will talk about, here's my video, but other people will, on a clip on slots communities, and you're just like, what, did you go home with money? What's all the questions we want to ask? So ask them. But Linda gave her casino report. Thank you very much. It was an example to the rest of us. I have a question. However, this is interactive, so I'm going to ask a question of you, Linda. Have you been to those casinos before, and were they always tight? The 2 that were tight, were they always tight, or is that a change? And so that's the sort of assessment that I'm talking about here when you go to a casino, is if you have past information, if you've been there before, even if it's your favorite casino and you've been there a lot, ask yourself, what do you know about that casino when you do the reassessment? Because as I've suggested, doing it annually is a very good idea. Why? You don't know if the casino's been sold. They don't put up the signs until 6 months after it's been officially announced, and they don't make the official announcement for months before that, you might hear something on a gaming board, something that it's been sold, but there's they are secret about that sort of stuff. Internal information only by a few executives beforehand during the negotiations, because if you screw that up, then you'll never, it's bad. So the person that will know who is in the audience is someone who gets a hand pay, because there's a legal requirement to show the name change on the W-2G. But that's too late, right? And so annual reassessments of casinos is just a standby so that you can double check to make sure, or you can wait to the end of the year and check your gambling records and see if they just went like that. But let's not do that. Let's do gambling records, but, and check it at the end of the year, but still, maybe even more often that, I keep on having these thoughts. So let's just, I would love to cover Chip's question, but I kind of remember it. It was the reason why I skipped over it was an excellent question, but it was kind of detailed. What he was asking about, and I want to get back to things. There's just a few more things to say about assessing casinos. I want to go over the checklist. What Greg was asking about was, are casinos, tribal or not tribal, commercial, are they actually in financial pain? Their businesses are getting payouts from the government, state government, state governments, federal governments. Do we really know if they're hurting? And I tend to think that they are. I don't think it's just greed. I think, they're hurting their customers by needing the money. I don't know if that's really greed so much as they need the money, right? They've been spending money on responses with their tribes to the pandemic, and they may need the money. I would think that if they weren't financially hurting, they wouldn't. Well, it's just a judgment call at this point. There's a possibility of getting government funds, and maybe they've all gotten that. Chip was correct in that. We have assumptions. We have to think about our assumptions. Okay. Linda says, yes, I've been to all of them before, so they're not always that tight. Well-known popular casinos here. Yes, all are tribal. Yeah, California's all tribal casinos if they're not card rooms. Just checking. It's the sort of thing where like, okay, so they're tight. Is that a change? Just inquisitive, interactive. Thank you for taking the time to answer that. I appreciate it. But let's go over get back to the topic today. And you can read the article. It's all there very quickly. Let's, where is it? There it is. So there's an introduction. And what I'll basically go through is I talk about, this is introduction to people who've never played slots as well as being a reassessment. So I talk about how there's different types of casinos, casino resorts, tribal casinos, a slots parlor that might have a racetrack, often called racinos. How do you even know what there are? And I talk a little about Google searches and how to have a map. I've since tried to provide those. I also talk about my state-by-state articles, my online resource where I do one a week. And if you're on the podcast, right now, you know that I always have like at least one, usually only one now these days, one state, the next state. I think the last one was New York. So what's coming up next? Is it North Carolina, maybe, for tomorrow's, and alphabetical, right? I talk about all that. I talk about where to find the State Gaming Commission information. We talk a little bit about is it good information or not good information when we talk about the slots communities. Well, the thing is, I when I was writing all this, I was thinking, okay, there's information. Hey, my buddy said, which is it verified? I felt solid information comes out of the Gaming Commission. When I started going through those state gaming commissions, and I've been through every one of them twice, and about half of them a third time, when I wasn't just browsing, but actually saying what are the rules, it's solid information. It may not be everything that you want, Not every state gaming commission has everything I would want, like a lower limit, like slot machine denomination returns per casino instead of state region. There's plenty of things that you might ask for. And if we grow and become a movement, not so much a business, but a movement, then maybe we could start having voting blocks within each state, but that's going to require millions of people per state. And I can only hope that we can grow that much. Vote for me. So then, of course, what to look for physically when you're visiting a casino, as well as online information. So I talk about the difference between casinos, slots parlors, racinos, casino resorts, how casino is used for all of them, but the word casino is also used for one of them. It's a little confusing. How to find slots communities, state-run gaming commissions, performing a physical assessment. And there's a red and green download the checklist form there on professorslots.com/assessing-casinos, where you can get the free checklist. And if you don't want to sign up for my email list, which is what also happens when you do that, the first email, you just unsubscribe. I don't, no offense. I understand that, but, this is a business, and as much as I want to help you, I need to build my audience and contact them later when I make a change to something they care about. So another approach was online resources, and I go through a bunch of stuff there. And then I talk about how this is, there's next steps, and this is step 1 of 3 articles that are primary, and that kind of closes that out. But let's go to I want to bring stuff up here. There's got to be a faster way to jump from one window to another window here. Right. And Steve, you're not showing. You're hidden. I'm going to show you. And now Steve is showing. My local casino just sent a letter today, double my free play, and hold out for a better, he says, double my free play based on my play. They really want me back. Hold out for a better offer, buddy. Hold it out. It's like my coworkers, go with a second retirement package, not the first one. You'll it's a risk, but you'll do better. It's a little dark. Texas Tootsie, Jan, are you saying that I can request the returns per casino from the state? We can start building pressure with our congressman and our state congressman and our state representative to have the laws updated. So that is the request. All right. Now, not for Oklahoma, because it's tribes. And the tribes have gaming compacts. So the next time these gaming compacts renew, 5 years before or whatever, and I know there's some confusion on whether or not they, when is the expiration date on a compact, and some of them don't have an expiration date. Yeah, this is why you need to look into it. How do you go about setting a limit? Oklahoma has very few options. You can choose to accept, that tribal casinos are it, but some people push for commercial casinos, and those laws have not been written, so you could have a say, but it's more like not necessarily you, unless you're, Bill Gates' granddaughter or something, where you can, be a lobbyist or something. And so voting blocks, that's what I was talking about. Scott, so the Oklahoma group, let's pick one in each direction of the state and assess them this week. That's a fine idea, but I'm speaking to the world. I think that it would be great if we had someone step forward for every state and said, who wants to cover this part? Who wants to cover this part? Who wants to cover this part? And then report back. And I'd love to get to that point. But with 13 people attending and only 1,000 people listening for the world, that's the sort of thing where we're not. Subscribe and like this video, and we'll try to get to that. There's always more to do. I'm glad we have the slots communities to be able to have this sort of information. Out there, it's not, we always be better. And that's a great way to do it. Scott, why don't you, step forward for Oklahoma? We got quite a few people there. I think we were like 3 short of 300 people there. And last I checked, it was like, 250 or something. So we're climbing. There might be enough people.
Excellent. We did see some of that where people were in the west of Oklahoma were like, "Hey, come on, you're doing the south or near Texas. What about over here?" We need more people everywhere. Durant seems the best, Scott. 800 hand pays. So Denise has some things for you there, Scott. 800 hand pays in the first day. Border friend that works there said 400 hand pays first day there. All high limit machines. Larry says missed the first 30 minutes, but what I've seen is still great. And we'll watch whole thing when it's available. Everyone enjoy yourself. Stay safe. Thank you, Larry. You too. Yeah. I know, Scott, the Oklahoma Facebook group, but this isn't a live for just the Oklahoma Facebook group. So that sounds like a fine plan, but very specific. Thank you, Chip. Is there anything I really wanted to get to? There's a section 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. And I broke them out in the checklist. There's a section with several questions, maybe a 10, and the last 2 being your question. You're going to have a question, 2 questions, put them there. And think about what they would be for your particular circumstances. Rate high to low, 7 through 1 being low, 7 being high, on things that would be questions for all slots enthusiasts. Now, if your gambling goal is entertainment, there's a bunch of questions. 5, 4. If your gambling goal is complimentary gifts. And hopefully you know what I'm talking about when I say, identify your gambling goals. And there's the most common I've put in here. If you want complimentary gifts, there's questions to check, go through and assess your casino under those topics. And then for take-home cash, the casino slots enthusiasts who like take-home cash, that's what they want. There's also questions for that. And finally, some general feeling about the place. Do you feel safe? Do you there's a sort of all-encompassing statement about the casino, as well as add up the score so you have a total score. The value and most liked feature, least liked feature. And the other thing is, do this more than once. Once for a casino, and then maybe a year later, or in your case, Scott, and in your case, Scott, maybe when things start winning again. So the last point I want to make on a casino assessment, what we're hearing lately is, the suggestion that I want to make is, I think it's anybody everywhere, walk into the casino, the reopened casino, look around. Is anybody winning? Is enough people winning? If they're not, turn around and walk out. Now, I understand that's not easy. You haven't been to a casino in 2.5 months, and you might not want to do that. But maybe that's what you need to do. And the other thing is, if you do stay, don't gamble. So you can watch a little longer and see if it picks up a couple hours later. Again, full respect, not an easy thing to do. And also the casino may kick you out. What are you doing sitting in that slot machine not playing? Move along, buddy, move along. So have fun, be safe, make good choices. I'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. This is the second segment of the show on slot machine casino gambling. Here I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district, emphasizing by far anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Up next is North Carolina slot machine casino gambling in 2020. Here goes. North Carolina slot machine casino gambling consists of 2 tribal casinos in the Great Smoky Mountains in the western tip of the state. Tribal state gaming compacts in North Carolina have established theoretical minimum and maximum payouts for their video gaming machines, while return statistics are not publicly available. The minimum legal gambling age in North Carolina depends upon the gambling activity. For land-based casinos and poker rooms, it's 21. For bingo and the lottery, it's 18. And for parimutuel wagering, it's not available. Video poker machines were once widespread in the state, but 2000's state regulations limited video poker machines to 3 per site, and banned the installation of new video gaming machines. In 2007, after nearly a half dozen attempts, the state legislature fully banned commercially owned video poker machines and video gaming machines. North Carolina has a single federally recognized American Indian tribe, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. The tribe has built 2 casinos on its Qualla boundary lands located in the Great Smoky Mountains. The type of casino action found in these tribal casinos includes, quote, skill or dexterity, end quote, based video slot machines. These tribal casinos offer a variety of table games. Although owned by the tribe, operation of both casinos is by Harrah's, which itself is a brand of Caesars Entertainment. The tribe owns and operates a high-stakes bingo hall. Next up is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. state and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. In North Carolina, it is legal to own a slot machine privately if it is 25 years old or older. Because North Carolina has no commercial casinos or other types of commercial gaming, the state does not have a gaming commission or control board. In this section, I'll discuss North Carolina gambling establishments. There are 2 American Indian tribal casinos in North Carolina. These 2 casinos are in the Great Smoky Mountains in the western part of the state. There are no commercial casinos in the state. The largest casino in North Carolina is Harrah's Cherokee Casino Resort with 3,280 gaming machines. Harrah's Cherokee is in Whittier, found 50 miles west of Asheville. The second largest and only other casino in North Carolina is Harrah's Cherokee Valley River Casino and Hotel with 1,000 gaming machines. Harrah's Cherokee Valley River is in Murphy, found 109 miles southwest of Asheville. As an alternative to enjoying North Carolina slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in a nearby state. Bordering North Carolina is to the north, Virginia to the east, the Atlantic Ocean to the south, Georgia and South Carolina, and to the west, Tennessee. To visit any of my articles on these U.S. states, simply visit ProfessorSlots.com followed by its 2-letter postal designation. For example, my Virginia slots article is available at ProfessorSlots.com/VA. Are you interested in sharing and learning with other slots enthusiasts in North Carolina? If so, join our North Carolina Slots community on Facebook at ProfessorSlots.com/FBNC. All you'll need is a Facebook profile to join this private Facebook group freely. There, you'll be able to privately share your slots experiences as well as chat with players about slots gambling in or near North Carolina. Again, use this convenient link I've created to go directly to our group on Facebook, ProfessorSlots.com/FBNC. Join us. The theoretical minimum and maximum payouts set by the Tribal State Gaming Compact is 83% and 98%. The tribal casinos in North Carolina, per the same compact, are not required to provide publicly available return statistics. In summary, North Carolina slot machine casino gambling consists of 2 tribal casinos in the western tip of the state. While owned by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, Caesars Entertainment operates both tribal casinos. Further, both tribal casinos have theoretical payout limits of 83% and 98%, but do not offer return statistics. Finally, North Carolina slot machines must be video games of skill or dexterity. Over the last year, there has been no change in the slots gaming industry in North Carolina, excepting disruptions due to our ongoing national crisis. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is a live streamed Q&A session on YouTube. Remember, my weekly Q&A session on YouTube is on Saturdays from 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Bring whatever slots questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. An easy-to-remember link to my YouTube channel is ProfessorSlots.com/live. Feel free to stop by anytime during my hour-long Q&A. To suggest a topic or ask a question which might end up as a blog article or on a podcast episode, email it to john@ProfessorSlots.com, where John is spelled Jon. Part 2 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. state of North Dakota. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes for this episode are on my website at ProfessorSlots.com/episode 93. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Bye.